program as as of October 1st this year. So we have been I've been working on that the majority. The other thing, big project internally that we've done is we sent all of our files out to be scanned so that we're on the state archive system. So it'll be in the same format that Onsite DQ uses. So we were trying to keep the same title kind of format so it'd be easier. So that's been a huge project. Other than that, we're going through and doing some cleanup text amendments, some park updates.
Parking,
Parking,
we're only
struggling with parking.
yeah, only discussing maybe updating on parking. We just need it for one or something.
Yeah, so I've been, I've kind of tasked Chris with doing a lot of the text updates for me, just because I've been working on the building codes process. And then we're changing a few things. We have to change some stuff in our ordinance, of course, to accommodate what building looks like with planning. So we're working on those kind of changes as well. Do you have anything to add? Do I? Anybody else from Coos County?
Yeah, Randy Dana made us a sweet little input test tool.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Because of HB 2225, nobody's applying. So,
We had a couple.
yeah, we've had some requests, but we've only gotten like, since that changeover, our date was November 1st, 2021 for that big.
For the template change.
And I want to say we got like 3 actual applications since then. We still actually have stuff to process that's in
Yes.
for October. We will be using it soon, so. But yeah, actually. Yeah, it's the concept of those multiple dates, and that's.
For those of you that do not work in forest lands, there was a change that happened and it set different counties on different paths. And Coos County's path came out November 1st. Of course, we received a flood of timber dwelling applications like no other. And timber dwelling applications are forest dwelling applications, and they apply a template, and you have to have so many parcels. It's a pattern of development. And now there's, after the November date, now there's different dates that you have to look at for this until 2023.
Yeah, so we have a track issue of parcels could have been sold in between two to other people, not realize that it's actually not developable.
Yeah, and it's a first come, first serve.
Was already developed, or has approval for development, so if you got to buy a house, but there's a case approval, you can end up in a situation where I don't know if you denied. You have denied.
So based on acreage or houses per unit of land area?
No, it's well, the template concept is like the density concept, but now we density, the tract issue, and now we're in a situation where you could theoretically have some pieces of property and those have sold to other people, and somebody can't develop it because that original owner that sold it had those two pieces of property.
And they are
So if you have a piece of property, so if you have 2 tax lots in forest, you could, you used to be able to, yeah, no touching. You used to be able to develop both of them through the forest template dwelling. They changed it to where now you can't. I think you can still do one more
You can do one
until whatever date. But after that date, you can't do any further. So there's people out there who have like, say 7 parcels in forest and they were all, touching, and they developed 2 houses already. And then they sold these other parcels, and maybe they already had a conditional use approval for that parcel, and then they let it expire. And then when they come back to apply, we're like, sorry, you can't have a house.
And that rule set update was at DLCD's level or the county level?
It was at the state legislative level.
Legislature, to try and prevent this continued urbanization of the forest zone.
No.
Actually, it was
No.
to prevent property line adjustments from
Parcel. That's why we. you guys- But we're easy guys to start with. Yeah.
Apparently some counties.
Well, I
Yeah,
can't,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't do that, so.
So I think it's the truck ownership in 2019, so it didn't start like 2021.
Yeah.
So
Other
it
counties.
backdated it.
Other counties have started in 2019.
But it's still backdated that lot of 2019, so it passed in 2020.
Right.
And they backdated.
So they could have sold that parcel after 2019, in between that time and had no idea that it was going to be developed.
So this is a little bit unusual for backdating. I mean, normally the county would send out the Measure 56 notice, but because of the backdating, it wouldn't really matter if you got the Measure 56 notice or not. Because it's a backdate issue. But we sent out a lot of information on it. We've had a lot of realtors that are aware of what's going on, so they are checking more often to make sure that.
There's an explosion of people wanting a dwelling.
Yeah, so yeah, we got a run of applications. I mean, it was a huge run of applications that are before, even if we had to deem them incomplete because they didn't have all the information, they were just trying to stop them the date.
And there's every double backslash reverse football play in the book right now to get a dwelling on a forest parcel. They're all hunting lodges.
They're all hunting lodges.
Yes, exactly.
They're all, yes.
Hunting and
If
fishing.
we can fix hunting lodges, that would make me really happy.
Well, thank you. Steve, did you want to?
Sure, so in quick, in 2 minutes, just a ecological situation. So down here on the south coast, we experienced a persistent marine heat wave from about 2014 on to 2019. It's relaxed a little bit over the last couple of years, but anyways, the ecological implications of that have been huge, unprecedented in our written history. And that meant a decline, serious decline, mass mortality of sea stars, to the point where the sunflower sea star has disappeared. We documented that, so it's functionally extinct on our coast. Maybe 3 or 4 individuals that we've observed or citizen scientists have reported to us. So it's under consideration by NOAA for threatened endangered species status. We should hear about that in August or September. Our kelp beds along the south coast have also declined by about 90%, very similar to what's been reported in California. However, here in Oregon, we do have very healthy kelp beds at South Cove, Cape Arago, and also offshore from Gold Beach at the Rogue Reef area. And that's been supporting the most lucrative commercial sea urchin fishery along the west coast. So it's something weird about Southern Oregon that's different than Northern California. We're trying to sort that out. It's also coupled up with the decline in our red abalone. So we took the action to suspend the recreational harvest of red abalone for another 3 years. We're going into at least 6 years, and we could be facing a much more longer term suspension of that fishery, which is considerable for the South Coast in terms of folks coming up from California. So I feel bad about having to make that call, but that's what we did. ODFW has just received about $300,000 from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to investigate these issues. And so we're starting that team up this summer. And the purpose for that is to gather and fill data gaps in our Oregon Nearshore Conservation Plan. So it's really a data acquisition effort. And then you may have also heard that the Oregon Kelp Alliance, so a group of stakeholders centered in and around Port Orford and South Coast, has also worked with us and their groups to secure about $940,000 of federal support through Jeff Murphy's office. So those dollars are also going to be available. So we really are in this spot now where we have tremendous financial resources, $1.5 million, maybe more, coming in to investigate these problems, to engage local stakeholders, to pay for citizen science surveys at multiple sites. We're engaged in the physical removal of sea urchins, for about 50,000 urchins out of the South Coast so far in an attempt to free up grazing and bring back kelp. So a bunch of things going on down there. We'll likely see, some of that in the press. And happy to be part of all that. So just give it a presence.
Lots of things going on in Bannon. We got, funding for, to update our transportation system plans. We'll be starting that in the next coming months. We're also updating our housing needs analysis and local lands inventory, working on the public access inventory. We're, like everyone else, focusing a lot on housing. So the city, just in partnership with Mike Kaiser, Bannon June, annexed 20 acres into city limits along with Highway 101 that was out in the county. To primarily use for affordable and workforce housing. We're also looking at other properties that the city already owns to use for that same purpose, so maybe changing them for whatever planned use they were. Most of the time, we just acquired land and had no purpose for it. So that's fun to go through those things. We're also working on code cleanup. That seems like maybe everyone, we've not done in a really long time, so most of our work is just deferred maintenance and getting in line with like sort of unenforceable code policies that we have, getting rid of those. We're also trying to reinstitute our CCI, which has been defunct for a number of years due to lack of interest, because we just could never get enough people to attend a meeting. So trying to get some energy around that, although it's still difficult, people clamor for citizen involvement and then never show up to meetings. So that's a little bit tough. We also have an ongoing worst eradication project, another partnership with Bannon Dunes in the city. We have a volunteer gorse management, our vegetation management coordinator who's focused primarily around gorse. And what he's done is broken the city into 5 different areas, and each year he's working with our code compliance officer to work with property owners to eradicate the gorse. We do know that it grows back and the seeds lay dormant in the soil for 7 years. So it's just going to be never-ending project. But we did just get some funding to be able to help property owners that don't have money to get rid of their gorse, for the city to sort of take on this project and do them ourselves. We also have our area in the donut hall. If you guys are not familiar, Bannon has like a circle and then there's an area in the center called the donut hall. This is just a funny side note. There's a really nice woman that we call Bobcat Julie, and she has a bobcat, and she's just been going all over the place and getting her gorse, which is really nice. We are also trying to bring all of our planning work into the 21st century. So we've got money, which is just insane to think about. Everyone at City Hall is helping on Fridays get our files in order, and then we're trying to scan them in because we even have building permits from 1936. I don't know why we saved them, but we have them, so we can get them on the computer. We also just recently updated our website. We're trying to get more information out there so people don't call our department looking for the same thing all the time. And we put money in our budget to be able to actually get some GIS work online, so that, again, we're getting just more resources out of people. And also, we have no staff. I'm the only person at City Hall right now. So I'm trying to do everything. Our planner meetings have frequently been about lack of capacity on the South Coast. And I would just like to say, I know everyone else is going through the same thing, but that is definitely, like, there's a lot of work to do and not enough people to do it. So hopefully that was 2 minutes. I don't know.
I just want to say, that's a discussion with all the planning directors, the county planning directors, we're all looking at capacity and how we've had lack of capacity, and we've learned to operate the lack of capacity and how we can maybe shift that so that you're not operating with that lack of capacity.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. We've all learned to do without, so there's just been a lot of deferred maintenance, but I think it's really starting to catch up. Yes. So thank you.
So David, just a question, is the lack of capacity mostly lack of funding, or you can't hire people?
We can't hire people that stick around. I think a lot of people, it's a good starting job. It's a hard place to find housing too. The last person we hired, who we adored, it took them 3 months to find housing locally and get a commute in from Myrtle Point. So that's been our ongoing issue. We've also tried to hire people and then they just can't find housing and they stop. And then I get frustrated with just having to train people constantly. It's a lot of work. So yeah, I would say it's all of those things, and then finding people who are qualified and interested in doing planning, that want to work in tandem. So that's everything, yeah. To sum it up.
Great, thanks. Chris, do you have any updates? Oh, go ahead.
No, I just didn't know, you're waving over there.
So I appreciate the ones of you that actually send me an email and talk about the turnover or so-and-so's in the new position and so forth. It helps keep the state's, the coastal division's contact list up to date, or send it to your regional reps too. They'll forward it on to me, and it just helps all around, especially for getting these invitations out for the Planners Network meetings and different things that are going on with the coastal division.
Me too. So Chris, did you have any updates from local ODFW?
Yeah, I think that folks probably try to figure out how Steve and I are different. Steve's got a thicker beard than I do. There's a lot of focus, Steve's ahead of shellfish, and so by far an expert on a lot of things that I'm not. But locally, I work with county planning quite a bit and planning and zoning, and so I'll try to stick a little bit to that. Other than I don't want to be outdone by Steve about talking about ecological disasters, one of which is the fall Chinook salmon population in the Coquille has collapsed from being one of the best fisheries on the Oregon coast to imperiled. And that's the third leg of the chair is the warm ocean, but the other two legs of the chair that are perhaps slightly stronger are two species of bass, both non-native, that have been in the Coquille. One of them was introduced illegally in 2009. The other's been around since the early 1900s or late 1800s. Striped bass came up from the Sacramento in the late 1800s, but smallmouth bass were illegally introduced in 2009. And smallmouth have exploded and expanded their range largely due to warm water conditions in the basin that are due to human effects. We've removed a lot of the buffers over the streams, and it's warm, and it makes a great habitat for smallmouth bass, where historically it was been largely controlled. So they're predating heavily on the fall Chinook population. Probably weren't doing quite as bad, although we're going to need another 8 or 10 years to figure out which. But just to get the bad point out first, to make sure that the Sea Star thing doesn't outdo me. I have a lot of good things going on. Tag gate projects, which require that we need county planning and zoning to do those projects. Lots of rule sets and permitting. I took a call earlier today that was related to one of those. In the forest zone, there's been an explosion of everybody wanting to divide a 1,000-acre parcel into urbanized lot size. They're finding every way they can to try and get around that. And I guess I'm still not an expert on when a hunting or fishing camp would or wouldn't apply, but we always try to figure out who's trying to outsmart the planning process. So far it's been okay. There's been an explosion of applicants wanting to build a boat dock on 10 Mile Lakes and a boathouse. And every structure over the water provides cover for another predatory fish that can affect coho that use that lake, because largemouth bass like to hide under boat docks, and then they eat coho as they swim by feeding. And so the way that we have linkage at ODFW, we're non-regulatory on a boat dock situation, but we provide feedback through the legalized permitting processes. One other thing that's fairly common that is more just a note of curiosity for folks is, I think it's been Lisa I've been working with lately since Heather left, but forgive me if I've forgotten who I've been communicating with. But ODFW has a number of enforceable policies that have linkage under the Coastal Zone Management Act, and some of them are production of salmon fishes for game fish and consumptive fishes and their habitats. And so any particular project that can affect those habitats, sometimes I reply directly to DLCD with comments. So that's all I have.
You're probably talking to Kyle and Amanda right now.
Yeah, it might be Amanda, but I know I have.
And Kyle a lot too.
She's helping us
She's,
tremendously until Jeff starts. Jeff Burrick will be the new one. When he
Okay.
starts next week. Thank you.
They've all been great.
Want to give us an update?
Sure. So I'm Jaime White with Walport. And so just a quick question, or just a quick comment on the geotech thing that you guys were talking about. I've been on the coast for about 3 years. I came from a much larger market. And I'm not gonna say I'm shocked by the low numbers. I don't really know how many professionals, design professionals there are or have been historically, but I am very surprised at the very low numbers of design professionals, geotechs, engineers, surveyors, architects, etc. But I'm also very shocked at the low quality of the work that's produced. So when people call and tell me, I point to my standards, my codes, and I say, this is, you do it for this, or we won't accept it. But more than anything else, I remind people that they have to check references, that they have to do their background work and shop around, and that most of these are licensed by the state, whether it's professional engineer, surveyor, whatever, and that they have a standard within their licensing that they have to adhere to. And if they don't feel like they've done the work, then they can report them to that board, whether it's an ethical board or performance board or whatever else, and then hopefully some kind of action. But it's not our job to either recommend somebody, and definitely not our job to tell the client that they've been taken. They can figure that out on their own. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I should say we never tell them that, but they tell us
I
that.
hear it all the time, and I always tell people, I said, did you check your references? Did you call around? You didn't go with who's available, and please tell me you didn't go with the cheapest cost. Because that's what
I have
you're
it.
doing. They do. So anyway, I've been out here about 3 years. I've been in Walport since about January, so I'm still getting to know the city a little bit. The nice thing about Walport is it's a little bit of like a blue collar type community. So there's not a lot of high-end vacation rental demand. Starting to get a lot more of that right now. I'm getting a lot of calls about people wanting to do second homes and that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit different, if you will. The nice thing about Walport is I walked into a situation where they had a grant to double the size of the water treatment plant, double the size of the wastewater treatment plant. So another grant for that. They also had a grant for safe routes to schools, so sidewalk on one of the busier streets where the schools are. And then we also had a grant for the housing needs. So actually tomorrow, it should left, so I can't find around, but we're doing our first citizens advisory group, the home needs analysis for the housing needs analysis. So tomorrow's gonna be the buildable land index. So maybe in another quarter I'll be able to come back and report and tell you guys how that went. But other than that, it's a sleepy little community. I've been talking to Steve a little bit about the biking community. We need to keep going. There are growing pains with ODOT. One of the highways that goes through town isn't busy enough or have enough volume, in their opinion, to maintain striping or to paint the sidewalks. And they actually said, well, we'll come out and grind the sidewalk away because we don't have, number one, they don't understand what their ADA requirements are because of all the different lawsuits, and they don't have the manpower to come out and paint it. So we've got a few of those issues going on.
I think between Jaime and myself, we represent about 1% of Walport.
I technically don't live inside city limits.
Regional rep lives there as well.
Well, and hopefully people are okay with staying 15 more minutes. I think that's, did you want to do an update really quickly?
I can, yeah, I'm so sorry. I have to be in Reedsport tonight for a planning commission meeting. And it starts at 5. We switched up till 5 and I need to be there a little early to set up all the stuff. And so, but my name is Haley and I'm the planner for Coquille and Reedsport. Coquille's had a lot of staffing changes in the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years. And so we're going through a lot of changes there and we're doing a lot of really cool projects. We are in the middle of doing a housing needs analysis, buildable lands inventory, thanks to DLCD, but we also coupled that with an economic opportunities analysis. So we're really studying what we want to do to move Coquille forward, to make some comp plan updates. We haven't done that for decades. And so we have a lot of goals that are really outdated and basically have to do with bringing industry to Coquille. And so we're now kind of looking at, well, how can we cater to the industry that's here, which is public sector, right? The hospital, the schools, and then also to this growing tourism industry that we have. And Reedsport has made a lot of strides in the last decade and is moving forward. If you are from around here and you have drove through Reedsport 10 years ago versus driving through there today, it's like a totally different place. So we're updating our housing needs analysis and buildable lands inventory there. But there we're just generally working on a lot of different kinds of projects. I think the one that's the biggest for the city right now is they're going through a levee recertification, which is a whole thing. And so we're upgrading a bunch of pump systems and things that have to do with essentially keeping water out of Reedsport, because it's this bowl that sits inside of this levee. But it's really interesting with two communities that are of sort of comparable size, seeing the difference that can be made by having staff, right, that are concentrated on moving forward in a way that's collaborative with other agencies and sort of like what's going on in Oregon. And so both exciting places, very different. And I'm sorry I have to leave. I'm gonna go. Anyone have questions or?
Thank you.
Thank you for this. I'm sorry I have to leave.
Drive safe, Haley. Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Anything you wanted to?
First, is Bree Ednoff still on the call?
I don't think so.
Okay, I wanted to make sure. So again, I'm new, Saber Comet from South State Reserve, the coastal training program. I'm kind of going out and I joined in the middle of the pandemic, so I'm just now kind of getting my feet underneath me. And with everything reopening, I'm going to be reaching out to a lot of the planners, especially the city folks around here, just kind of getting to know what folks' needs are, where I can kind of plug in there, getting to know different programs, all that stuff. As far as my core responsibilities, I help pretty much connect the technical information with the decision maker audience. So that's through trainings and workshops, but I also have a other category that I can help with technical assistance. So stuff I've kind of been ramping up is helping with meeting facilitation and meeting moderation, putting together science communication products for various audiences, helping out on information dissemination at the tail end of grants, and kind of figuring out how the recent technology evolution that a lot of us had to go through is affecting a lot of the projects that people are doing. So I can travel up and down the coast. And I'm, for those of you who don't know, the National Stream Research Reserves are joint funded between state agency and NOAA. So since my salary is NOAA funded, I don't charge for my time. It's all included. And additionally, I'm trying to figure out where people need in-person workshops, how to set up hybrid workshops, how to set up hubs, or where the virtual needs are. And a couple of things I have coming up that I will definitely share with this audience once I have the dates booked are fire management, defensible space in structures that are in wooded areas. So those can be agency owned as well as landowners, staying away from the urban areas. And I'm also trying to reinvigorate SCUG, those of you who were part of the South Coast UI GIS users group.
So yeah, if any of that sounds interesting, I have cards, and again, I will probably be following up with a lot of you folks just to sit down for a chat and get to know you.
Okay, and so North Bend, their council turned over, they had like a 20-plus-year-old council, and we had some turnover, and so things have progressively gotten more progressive. We have a new city administrator. They're working on they have lots of goals, and are working on lots of projects, trying to create more partnerships. And so a lot of things revolve around housing. We've made a lot of changes to our code to make housing development easier in our residential zones, also in our commercial zones. And we're working on our housing needs analysis, our economic opportunities analysis update, funding through DLCD, thank you. We also are dealing with cultural resource issues. The city owns land that is the subject of a site. And so we've done an archaeological survey on that piece of property, and we created a heritage management plan to help manage that. Unfortunately, it is a well-used city resource, and so trying to balance, you have this community feature facility that community wants to use, and a cultural resource that the tribes don't want to see disturbed. And so how do you move forward with that? We've also, our city has reobtained their certified local government status and trying to re-implement their historical landmark commission. There's not a whole lot of interest citywide. I think a lot of people see it as red tape, but we're trying to do that. And we have a grant to do a historical context statement, help us identify some of those historical themes in the community. We are looking to hopefully update our parks plan in the fall, and then working with the county in Coos Bay, maybe get our estuary plans organized and updated. Hopefully we can do that as well. And think of anything else. I don't know, lots going on. We even have lots of, whereas in the past, development has been kind of slow. People are now, we've got subdivisions, single family subdivisions happening. We've got affordable housing projects in the works. We're starting to see revitalization downtown. So things are picking up, and lots of new and interesting things are happening.
And last but certainly not least, Laura.
We were also fortunate to get a grant from DLCD for the planning assistance to build off of our buildable lands analysis from 2017, our round one of our housing code update. So now we're working on how to implement all those great ideas that we did, and also to pick up the loose ends on our code on it. And so we're working with APG on that project. And they have our first stakeholder meeting, and are geared up for our second stakeholder meeting in mid-June. So far working really good. It's the code audit part that we're working on is kind of picking up on the tough conversations that Florence wasn't ready to have back then, transitional housing, how to deal with homeless, those conversations. It almost just stiff-armed our entire project that we had been working on. So we intentionally broke it apart. Which sounds bad, but moved the easy stuff forward, and now we're picking up the not belonging to. We also have received a TSP or a TGN grant to update our TSP from 2012, and that will be kicking off here in the next couple of weeks. We are hiring a planner, so if any of you are looking to make a job change or something. Yeah. Like to get rid of that person. You can also, our building permit tech, we've been working for the city for 30 years, is finally retiring, so we will have a building permit tech position open as well. We'll be training that person. see, we have approved almost 90 affordable housing units in the last year, so we're looking for those to come online soon so that we can have some place for people to live. Which more and more people, I guess that definition got redefined for Wayne County, and so that more people qualify for that category than in the past, so that's gonna be great for Florence. We also got some funding to finally build our estuary trail, a long awaited estuary trail that was planned in our 1980 something conference. It's finally actually gonna be done. For those that have been to Florence, or when we've done the fall conference there, where we have that there, so finally that property across the street, Urban Renewal acquired that property and is now under review for a hotel. So it should break ground on this late summer.
Actually, I didn't mean to miss DFL back there. Did you want to, yeah, do you want to get an update?
Now I have to find my notes. So this year we will be revising, doing rulemaking on our delineations. And one of the biggest changes is that we would like to require the submittal of GIS. And thinking about everything that you have said about your geotech reports, those delineation rules really outline what's required in a delineation. And I don't know if something like that might help those geotech. And we also have some other things that like tell people what questions to ask if they're gonna hire for delineators. And also we do a box score of everybody for the past 5 years who's submitted a delineation to us and what was the outcome of that review. So long story short, there's some ideas, and if you'd be interested in having GIS available to you of that delineation that was just reviewed by us during that rulemaking, and I'll be letting you know, please chime in on that. But I can only let you know if you update me also with your emails. Please do that, because I often, as you probably have found lately, I often try and reach out to you guys. The last time I did that individually was for the guidance for wetland land use notices, which was on December 13th. If you did not see that guidance, look for it, but it also is now on the website, right underneath those wetland land use notice statutes, right in that same drop-down box where you go to fill out your wetland land use notice form. Not that I'm all about wetland land use notices, but apparently I am. Oh yeah, I continue to try and add things to the statewide wetlands inventory that might help you. We got an EPA grant, you probably heard, to map, to create a GIS database for all of our compensatory mitigation sites. That's important for everyone because there is a 0 cubic yard threshold for work done in mitigation sites. So you need to know where those are. Our first person who we hired left for a real job. Because he was very overqualified. I will be reopening that. So if you know of anyone who wants a GIS job and they're just cutting their teeth in that and they want to move to Salem, we have a job for them. We also got another EPA grant to.
Just what you said, move to Salem, but don't you have a limited,
So they need to be able to work with paper because some of our, we're stuck in the old days where we still have our stuff on paper, but that's part of that job is moving that stuff into digital archives. And part of this job that I'm about to tell you, we also got an EPA grant to make the study areas of delineations and determinations into a GIS data set. So you'll at least know where those are and be able to click on the agency decision document all right there, from the SWI. Our GIS guys are so overburdened that I'm still trying to get the LWIs that we had digitized. So even those ones that weren't originally digitized, they are digitized, and the GIS is available on our website. Still trying to get that onto the SWI. And at the same time, we want to add ESH and state scenic waterways, because those are also 0 cubic yard threshold. So we just want you to be able to go one place and figure out, does this, well, it will tell you when to send a well and land use, and then we'll tell you the rest. Thanks, and please get a hold of me, so I know your email, and that's also really important to us because we need to send you the copies of the delineation, the approved delineation letters, and copies of our issued permits, and if we don't have a current email for you, it delays those. Thanks, you guys. Good to see you.
Well, thank you so much for your patience. We underestimated time a little bit, but maybe that's because we haven't been in person together for a while. So really, really appreciate your attendance here, your participation. If you have any ideas for future Coastal Planner Network meetings, we should regional rep know, or, really anybody from the coastal program, and we'll get that incorporated. Oh, and it looks like. we
I
have a
know
message.
that some of you RSVP'd, some did not our staff, but anybody else, please sign this attendee sheet so I can match it up with the RSVP for my reports and so forth, and also reconciliation of the money that we spent on food and things like that.
These updates, and we want to say thank you, both to our staff and everybody that's here. It's been an honor to work with this program for about 20 years, split into 2 different periods. So, wonderful staff, great to work with all the local jurisdictions, and you expect to see the rest of the staff in the fall. So, thank you.
And take the leftovers. Get a plate, load it up. and take it.